our timing is such that we are right against the NASA UTM mission this meeting this week. But we have our own UTM expert. So Dr. Hatfield from University of Alaska Fairbanks and Akwasi will be here to talk to you about the UAS traffic management research platform for NASA and what Akwasi's efforts on that project have been. Take it away, Mike.
So I'm the science and education guy at UAF.
Use the other button.
So I'm the science and education guy at UAF at Akwasi, but one of the neat things I get to do is I get to work with technology and sensors that allow us to fly in places and accomplish missions we couldn't do otherwise. So, like Kathy said, unfortunately, the NASA guys couldn't be here to talk about this themselves, so I will try to be a suitable stand-in. You'll notice as I go through the briefing and everything that I've pirated a lot of NASA slides, and I can guarantee you those slides are right. And I can guarantee you that I tried to get all my information about their slides and everything right too and everything, but their slides are right and mine probably are. But anyways, like Joanne was saying, there's a lot of challenges to flying up here in Alaska, and a lot of challenges with navigation aids. So the GPS constellation stays down on the southern horizon all the time. You add in any sort of terrain in the way and everything, and sometimes you get a pretty crappy GPS solution up here, and that can make it very difficult to fly. We've got all sorts of different terrain, lots and lots of vast distances where we're going to fly and everything. And between that and the climate and the weather and everything, those things gang up on us sometimes to make flying just pretty darn difficult. Dirty, dull, dangerous, and then a lot of times just darn expensive and everything too. So anything we can do to try to make this process a little bit better, anything we can do to get ourselves in the place where we can do beyond line of sight missions and everything and drive down those costs and make it a little more simple, that's what we want to do. So that's kind of the challenges we face up here. And then of course the FAA and NASA are facing a broader set of challenges, and they're worried about things like not having drones run into airplanes and hurt people and stuff like that. And very important. So that location thing, where am I? Well, how do I know where I am? With what certainty do I know where I am? Okay? Where is everybody else? Where are the obstructions? With what certainty do I know my position with respect to those other entities out there? How far is that aircraft? When I don't know exactly where I am and that aircraft doesn't know exactly where it is, then we have to start building in bigger and bigger spaces in between to allow for safe separation, okay? And then with, the key to UAVs flying in the national airspace and everything is not just beyond line of sight operations and knowing where we are, but it's about the communication so that we can tell the folks that are out there, where we are, and they can know with certainty where we're at. And it's coordinating a lot of different multiple actors out there at the same time. And then this whole process is kind of an incremental growing process where we're learning from what, we're taking baby steps, okay? NASA, with the test sites and everything, we're taking baby steps and we're moving along in a very directed, where we want to go with this thing, being very cautious with where we're going and just trying to make sure that we're building the process and the expectations along the way, and then we're getting the training to everybody out there that's affected by it, and then making sure that we're informing and assuring the public of what we're doing as well, okay? So I'm just going to go over a few things with the program here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the UTM program that NASA has, and then I'll talk about a couple of, our participation in UTM TCL1 that happened in April, and then TCL2 that happened here last month. So just in broad terms and everything, the UTM program is obviously meant to integrate UAVs in the national airspace, and it's to build not only the technology, but those processes and infrastructure that are necessary so that UAVs can operate, along with manned aircraft eventually, safely and successfully. And it's about a process to drive down the risk of operations and then look to the future. And so they tried to do this in, again, a very, mature, thoughtful process and everything, taking baby steps and doing the crawl, walk, run thing. Okay? So now, back about just over a year ago, I was sitting in a conference just like this back in September, and we were putting together the finishing touches on a proposal to NASA's RFP, asking for the 6 test sites in this case to go out and bid for the UTM task order 1, and the LVC, the Live Virtual Constructive Distributed Element Environment, task order 2, and we were putting the finishing touches on that actually during the conference last year, and as a result of that, all 6 test sites were awarded the proposals for task order 1 and task order 2 to begin with. That period of performance just completed this year as well. But what changed about this was originally there was a very aggressive scope of work to be done under the task order 2, the LVC-DE work, and that included a whole bunch of ground-based and air-based detect and avoid sensors that were going to be integrated into this and everything. And then what happened as a result, I think when NASA got the responses back to that and they saw how much time and how much money it was going to take to do some of this stuff, they changed that acquisition process and they moved some of the DAA stuff out into later builds of the UTM process. Now the UTM process, they've got 4 TCL levels, technology capability levels, and so far we've completed capability 1 and capability 2. And it starts off in a rather simplistic method, and then it builds up to more complex over time. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we did for TCL1 and TCL2 here in a second. So from a national perspective, NASA's looking at this, and they had all 6 test sites flying aircraft at the same time. This is for TCL1. And the goal of this was a couple of things. They wanted to demonstrate that they have software that you could load a flight plan into, and you could put a geofence out there that would allow you to kind of cordon off a certain amount of airspace, and then it would deconflict other people that were trying to do the same thing with the same airspace, and at a very cursory level. And then we were also tracking the aircraft through the GPS. We had special software that would track the position, send it to NASA's UAS traffic management system, the UTM system, and then they could track on a data board where everybody was flying at any given time. And they also integrated in a bunch of models in there to populate the data board a little bit. And for UTM1, what the goal was to have all 6 of the test sites at the time fly aircraft simultaneously. And we each had 4 aircraft that we were trying to get into the air, and their goal was to try to get all 24 of these aircraft up and fly simultaneously and show it on the board. And that's what they did. Okay? So some things that they did with this, again, they deconflicted the airspace, but there was no vertical stratification of airspace. Basically, the blocks went up to infinity, but they did geographic deconfliction of airspace. They were successful in getting all 4, we got all 6 test sites flying 4 aircraft at the same time, and then NASA displayed this up on their data board and had a big media event on the 19th of April. So, and then what we did in support of that, we flew 4 aircraft in this, 1 responder and a ptarmigan at 1 test site, at Poker Flat, and then at another site, another separate location on the range, we flew another ptarmigan and an Aeromapper aircraft. So we had a dissimilar aircraft flying in 2 separate locations.